Emperor Palpatine's evil knows no bounds, and he withholds it from no one, even those that served him faithfully. That would include the Stormtroopers. Whisked away from everyday life, recruits would be taken to Carida, where they would then be transformed from everyday Imperial citizens to cold killing machines. It's easy to forget that there are actual people under those white domes, but that's the entire point. Their identity and everything that makes them human is completely absorbed by the Stormtrooper Corps, and by their loyalty to their Emperor. Welcome back to the Archives Lore Junkies, we've been expecting you. In today's Holocron, we are going to explore how Palpatine made sure that every Stormtrooper who emerged from training was completely unrecognizable, to the point of forgetting who they truly were. Our research begins in the year 12 BBY with the Kamino Uprising. This was the very first event that caused Emperor Palpatine to switch from clones to organic recruits. The Kaminoan cloners, disgruntled by the Empire, bred their own anti-Imperial trooper army. Once Sidious discovered this though, he dispatched none other than the 501st to shut the project down. Following this dreaded insurrection, Palpatine decided that having a genetically identical army was simply too risky. All of them being Jango Fett clones made them too prone to mass mutiny, and so he began phasing them out and sending out recruitment calls to the citizens of his new empire. Young men signed up in droves to serve their new government. Each one was eager to don the white armor that symbolized authority in the new regime and the new era. Many young boys had grown up during the Clone Wars, being inspired by the heroism put on display by the clones. Following the Jedi Purge, the clones were celebrated as heroes who had stopped the Jedi menace, men who rebelled against leaders that attempted to corrupt them in service to their chancellor. This caused many young idealists to arrive by the legions so that they too could lay claim to this noble heritage. Of course, this wasn't the popular opinion of the would-be soldiers. Many saw it as an opportunity for adventure, or rather to escape poverty or simply leave their rancid and destroyed homeworlds. From their recruitment, they were taken to the world of Carida, where their very minds were turned upside down. The Stormtroopers were the most visible symbol of Palpatine's rule and the unrivaled might of the new empire. For this very reason, they had to throw away all sense of personal safety and identity. Loyalty and obedience were drilled into the heads of every trooper, as were the ideals of the Empire. In the words of Grand Moff Tarkin, the ideals were this: the Republic did not protect power internally or externally. In truth, the Republic held no power at all. Its democracy was a prop for the lazy. It allowed citizens to diffuse personal responsibility throughout the greater whole, ensuring no one would be held accountable for their personal failings. Debates and committees crippled governance and grounded progress to a halt. Emperor Palpatine recognizes that all beings are not equal, and that decisions determined by a numerical majority do not make them valid. The Republic's pacifism was a shield for the weak. War is the natural state of things. Revolutionaries, traitors, and alien savages who do not bow to our Emperor but seek to challenge our authority will meet a merciless end. Their territories absorbed into our dominion. We are an empire, and we must expand if we are to remain vital. The Empire sweeps aside false social constructs in favor of a rule that is clear and absolute. The burdens of unnecessary freedoms have been shed, and centralized power is made plain. No one doubts their place in the new order. The Stormtrooper recruits were taught that doctrine like this was the knife, but that they themselves were its edge. And from this, they took a solemn pledge to sanctify themselves. I am a Stormtrooper. My skin is my armor. My face is my helmet. My name is my number. I am fulfilled, for I am an agent of the Emperor. This mantra was what they were given to eat each and every morning, what they recited before sleep, what they thought upon while they trained. The Cliffside Academy on Carida was an absolutely brutal training grounds. Day after day, recruits underwent wilderness survival, desert warfare simulation, underwater battle tactics, flash memory instruction, a look at military history, self-discipline through emotional suppression, and education on the principles of the new order. The idea was to break the minds and the spirits of average men and create in them genetically bred loyal clones that they had prior. As it was said, the Stormtrooper cannot be bribed or blackmailed. He is unswerving in his obedience and unflinching in his dispensation of Imperial justice. The Imperial justice in question, though, is their ability to commit horrid atrocities without hesitation. Having said that, not every trooper was able to uphold this ideal, leading to several defecting actually to the Rebel Alliance. But by and large, Stormtroopers were made aware of their expendability. They were prepared to lay down their lives for the Emperor because of this psychological conditioning. As such, they fully threw aside their former names and took upon TK numbers. They were referred to only by their numbers, and also only knew each other as such. Their training in self-suppression kept them from getting distracted by emotional responses. A stormtrooper has watched their comrades get mowed down in front of them, and they simply ignore it. The only time casualties were taken notice of was from a tactical standpoint. As it was written in the Imperial handbook, the uniformity of the Stormtrooper Corps was what made them so terrifying to begin with. They all looked identical, endless. If one fell in combat, another would simply take their place. This would frighten and demoralize enemies, as waves and waves of stormtroopers would feel endless. Princess Leia would comment on how terrifying stormtrooper ideology was. They couldn't be reasoned with. She even went as far as to say that once they were programmed, that there was no going back. Even after the fall of Palpatine, many stormtroopers would remain loyal to what was left of the Empire. This is all they knew. They no longer remembered who they were, and their lives before service were now a distant memory to many of them. The first time we see the repercussions of this was with Kyp Durron's brother. Kyp was a child during the Imperial oppression, and later became a Jedi student under Luke Skywalker's Praxium. But when he was young, his parents were outspoken political opponents to Palpatine's new regime. In the dead of night, Imperial agents stormed their home and hit the whole family with stun beams. Kyp and his parents were thrown into the spice mines of Kessel, while his older brother Zeth was forcefully dragged to Carida to become a stormtrooper. Many years would pass, and Kyp Durron would return with a vengeance. Having taken instruction in the dark side by the spirit of Exar Kun, he had stolen a super weapon known as the Sun Crusher, and threatened Carida with it. He demanded to see his brother Zeth, and said he would wipe out the entire planet if the Empire refused. Fergan, the Imperial overseer of the Academy, lied to Kyp in order to stall him. He stated that Zeth had died during a training exercise, which was a very real thing that happened frequently. Overcome with grief, Kyp Durron launched a resonance torpedo into Carida's sun, and waited for it to explode. Realizing they were in actual danger, the Carida Academy managed to procure Zeth, finding him in the ranks of the troopers, hoping that Kyp would reverse what had been done. When Kyp spoke to his brother Zeth, he appeared confused and not entirely sure who he was. To make it worse, he didn't know where he was either. He seemed uncomfortable without his helmet on his face, and he did not immediately recognize Kyp or his original name. Zeth did eventually snap too, but it took him a long moment to remember who his brother was. For us, this is evidence that the Stormtrooper training includes much more than simple re-education. While very few sources confirm this, it's possible that some sort of mechanical mind alteration could also be used in order to force these troopers into pure loyalty, all at the expense of their humanity. Darth Sidious's evil knows no bounds, and he withholds it from no one, even those who serve him faithfully. The Stormtroopers themselves are genuinely terrifying. It's easy to think of them a little bit more than cinematic fodder for our heroes to mow down sometimes, but if we remove that perspective for a moment and actually look at the lore, they're frightening for a multitude of reasons. Not only are they meant to be elite and heavily trained soldiers, even if the films have caused many fans to question that reputation, they are still also victims themselves. There is no one in Palpatine's empire who escapes his malicious intent in some form, whether through the corrosion of their morals and spirit, or through direct harm inflicted by his immense power. The Stormtroopers reflect that reality, so the next time we watch rows of Stormtroopers fall on screen, we may also be witnessing something darker, victims of a far greater evil being consumed by it. Palpatine and his empire didn't just simply conquer worlds or crush rebellions. They hollowed people out. They turned its citizens into instruments, names into numbers, and lives into interchangeable components of an endless war machine. Stormtroopers were not just enforcers of tyranny, they were its proof. Proof that Palpatine's greatest weapon was never his fleets, his super weapons, or even the dark side, but his ability to strip away identity, compassion, and choice until the only thing left was obedience. The Stormtrooper is the Empire's most honest symbol. Not the Death Star, not a throne, but the silent figures in white, marching forward without question, without memory, and without future. If the Empire could do that to its own people, then perhaps its greatest crime was never the worlds it destroyed, but the humanity that it buried one soldier at a time. But what do you think? Would you want to see this possible plotline explored further somewhere? Do you even like the idea that the Empire is mechanically re-educating these troopers? Or do you prefer it when the soldiers follow the Empire of their own volition? Simple psychological reprogramming. Either way, it goes to show just how far the Empire's reach really goes, not just in space, but in the hearts and the minds of its citizens. But as always, thank you so much for joining us in the archives today, and may the Force be with you.